Hello everyone, I'm Rhonda with LivWell Seniors. LivWell is a free information and referral service connecting families to senior living options in the community that we serve. Today we're going to talk about home care. What does that mean? How can people utilize home care to help extend the time that they can stay in their homes longer? Most families have a desire to stay home as long as possible, and we're talking about families who are struggling with some caregiving concerns for their loved ones, whether you're an adult child caring for a parent or a grandparent, or maybe you're just concerned about your aunt or uncle or neighbor down the street. What can they do to stay home longer? Some of the signs that you might need some help for your loved one to stay home longer would be if you're helping your loved one with maybe activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, medication reminders. Maybe you're helping your loved one with outside help, taking care of their lawn, taking the garbage out, or snow removal, things of that nature. If your loved one is calling you constantly with a list of things for you to do, every time you go over to visit, you have a list of things to do. Those are definitely some signs that maybe your loved one could use some additional help besides just from you. So you might be asking yourself, what is it that is causing so much stress with taking care of your loved ones? Well, we think about when we are adult children, we're raising our families, we have grandkids, we have other obligations, we still work. And then when your older or aging loved one starts to require additional attention, that can be overwhelming. And that additional attention could be as simple as going over and changing a light bulb, or making meals, making sure that your loved one has nutritious meals every day, and getting over there just to make sure that they're eating. Maybe you're picking up prescriptions and groceries. You have your own personal lives to tend to with work and family obligations and other obligations, and even recreational obligations, on top of making sure that your loved one is cared for. It's not always convenient. Maybe they live across town or in another city or even in another state. How do you manage that and make sure that your loved one gets the services that they need so you know that they're cared for? So if you're being honest with yourself, you really have to ask yourself, am I doing the things that I need for my loved one? And am I doing it, in a caring, loving way? I think oftentimes caregivers overlook the care for their own selves. They give that up first. And so recently I was in a family home with a family, had 2 daughters and a son-in-law and a mom. And mom thinks she's very independent, because she is independent, but she's independent because her adult children are doing so much for her. So you might hear from your loved one, I'm independent. And they are independent, but only because you're lending that help for them to help them remain independent. And this is a perfect place to incorporate maybe some outside services, some home care services to help your loved one stay home longer, be healthy, be happy. And then when you come to visit, you're not doing the whole honey-do list of items that is expected of you from your loved one. You're able to sit there and chat with your mom or your dad or your grandparent. You're able to sit there and play a hand of cards with your loved one and just really enjoy visiting with them rather than doing all the things that they might need you to do or expect you to do just so they can stay home. So some of the things to consider when you're trying to take some things off of your own honey-do list for your loved one is to think about the things you're doing. So if you're doing the lawn service, is there a lawn service that you can contract with? At LivWell, we do have our caring network of people that we can connect you to that can help with some of those things. Maybe there's a handyman that could help, hang some pictures or do some small minor repairs that you might need done in your loved one's home. So LivWell's vetted these services and worked closely with them. They have been referred to many families in our community, and we've had great experience with the folks that we work with. So if you're having to help your loved one with some basic activities of daily living like meal preparation or setting up their pills in a pill planner so they can take their pills on time, maybe making sure that they're eating all of their meals that are being prepared. So there are some home care services that can be established and utilized and implemented in their home to be able to make sure that your loved one is getting those proper meals, they're able to take their medications on time, and maybe even some other things that can be helpful to them, like bathing assistance. So it's important to make sure that if your loved one is in need of some of these types of cares, you connect with a reputable organization, and that's what LivWell does. We're vetting the organizations that we're working with, and we can connect you with a list of options that you can interview with. We encourage you to interview 2 or 3 organizations, interview with the caregivers that might be the ones providing the cares for your loved one to make sure it's a good personality fit and make sure that they can provide the cares that you desire for your loved ones. So if you're looking for home help to try to keep your loved one at home longer, you might need some help maybe in the morning and the evening. You want to make sure that your loved one gets up in the morning, that they get dressed, that they get their medications, and that they eat for the day. And then they're set up for the whole day. So make sure that there's lunch set up, their medication set up for the day, and then maybe you might have to come back in the evening to help them get dressed for the evening and eat their meals in the evening. So you might be looking at 4 hours in the morning and 4 hours at night. Again, that's a way to keep your loved one safe. You know that you can be at work all day and maybe not call mom 7 or 8 times a day, but just know that she's being taken care of because you have somebody coming in the house that you trust. So you might be wondering, how do I pay for this type of care? And most of the time, this is going to be a care that is private pay and would be covered under a long-term care insurance policy if you have that. That is an option. There are some benefits available to veterans and surviving spouses of veterans that can help pay for some of these cares in order to keep your loved one at home. And then, of course, there would be some state-funded benefits. Although it's limited, those benefits might be available if your loved one is qualified for those state-funded benefits. So LivWell can help a family get connected to those right resources that fit their personal needs based on their personal situation. And that's something that we do when we're working with families, is identifying what their needs are based on their financial situation, based on their personal health situations, and even their personal preferences. You might be asking yourself, at what point does the cost outweigh staying home versus looking at senior living options? Providing home care at home is around $30 to $40 an hour, depending on the level of care needs, the number of activities of daily living that the home care provider might be providing, and then also it depends on where they live in the communities. If you're utilizing 6 to 8 hours of care per day at home, is probably the time when you want to start looking at maybe some more 24-hour care options in independent living or independent plus or even assisted living. If your loved one is needing, some socialization and some transportation and things like that, that might be the point that you start looking at senior living options as an alternative solution to home care. So the cost of care then would be equivalent to being in a senior living community and getting 24-hour care available to your loved one as 6 to 8 hours of care at home. Not to mention the fact that your loved one has that social engagement that they are missing when they are at home. And quite honestly, families will tell me they don't realize how alone and isolated they are until they're no longer alone and isolated. Are you struggling to keep your loved one at home? Are you struggling to have those conversations with your parent or loved one that this is stressful for you too as a caregiver? Then you've got your parent who says, oh, but I'm so independent, I can do all these things on my own. But the truth is, maybe they can do those things on their own, but you are doing so much to help them be independent. You actually become their assisted living. So if you're providing those ancillary services like picking up groceries, picking up prescriptions, getting the garbage out, doing the lawn, all of those things, you know that it's time to have that conversation with your loved one that we need to start looking at senior living options. And that's where LivWell Seniors can step in and help families have that conversation with their loved ones, because of course you want your parent or your loved one to have the control. It really comes down to they want to have their own options, and they want to be heard. They want to know that you are hearing what they have to say, and that this is their decision. So you can reach us at livwellseniors.com, LIVWELL seniors.com. And we are available evenings and weekends 24/7. You can call us at 563-265-1577. And again, we can help you get connected to those senior home care options when you need it, whether you're in need of it in a crisis mode or if you're just planning ahead. We can certainly get you connected in the right direction.